Writing is hard work. We could go in different directions and miss the very objective and purpose we've set for a particular writing project. Our speaker today will help us not be like a mosquito as we write, but how to effectively use a writing map. Larry Brook is a longtime friend of MAI. He has traveled to different parts of the world conducting writing and leadership workshops. Larry was a former MAI board member and had served here for a number of years. Let's all welcome Mr. Larry Brook.
Good morning, mosquito lovers of the world. I know this is, some of you got up early, some of you stayed up late, but we all here together. And before we start, or as we start, we want to have you look around your room, and do you hear a mosquito? I hear one. Make sure you get rid of them. I'm right now in the one mosquito world. Can you hear me, Ramon?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, because it looked like a mute went on.
But I muted myself.
Oh,
so
okay.
I will not hear the mosquito around me.
Okay, good. Mute your mosquitoes. Yes, and of course I will explain why we are calling this mosquitoes, but really it is about writing your article, your blog, your sermon, podcast, anything where you want to convey a message using a writing map. And as we move forward, question that Brendan Juan, if I can say that right, wrote in, when you had any ideas, how do you organize tasks and choose which one to pursue? One of my workshops, some of you, I don't know who all is there, but my friend, he says to me, I have no ideas. My ideas are like rabbits. And every time I reach out to one, so it's the kind of question that we try to answer as we talk about our writing. I think it's helpful to take a quick look at where we're going today. And I stress that for me, but everybody brings their ideas and recommendations, and that's important. That's where the chat room comes in. It's certainly third or fourth best from actually being together, but we can do this.
Excuse me, Larry.
Yes.
Sometimes you're breaking up. The audio is not really working very well.
You want me to call in somehow?
Do you have a headset somewhere there that you could use?
I do. That maybe would help. I had this trouble with a corporation the other day. Let me try it. And I know, Ramon, when we, just so people know, we tested this before. It seemed to work. Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
Okay, yes. We'll try that. Go ahead. Please continue.
Yeah, well, please stop me if there's a problem. Why maps? Find ideas where you've never looked before. Use mind mapping to narrow ideas for the thesis. In the first kind of article, use thesis and support for a standard magazine article, sermon, blog, podcast. Use thesis, comparison, article, that's the second kind of article. We
Larry,
Yes.
you're still breaking up. Remove the headset.
Sorry about that. I don't know what else to do unless there's a way for me to call in to you on the phone.
Hopefully, it'll be better now. Please.
I can hear you. Maybe if I come up closer. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
So let's move on to talking about why maps. I discovered maps in one of the countries where I work with writers, and what happened here? The chat went away now.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Oh, I know, I can make it smaller. Of course, when I work with writers, it's usually not in English. And what I found was, since I couldn't talk about the words, what I could do is talk about the structure. And that became a big change in my approach to training and workshops. As you can see from the photograph, I hope you can see it, I'm kind of lost in the middle of all my Indonesian writers. Maybe you see yourself in there. Now, what I'm trying to point out here is that I can communicate only to a limited extent in another language, which I can't actually. So I use the map to cross over cultures and languages, and it's everybody. These maps work everywhere. The only place I haven't tried it is on the moon. But other people, it works because you can communicate the structure. And I'd like to add too that I'm a Westerner and my approach is, you might say, linear, but I have found that it gives you writers a discipline to organize yourself, organize your thinking. And in doing so, you can then begin, and this happens just in a wonderful way, you begin to incorporate the elements of your own culture. Now, this is some feedback that I've received over the years. Here's a gentleman reading the paper. I had one writer come to me during a workshop, and he said that, "Larry, your workshop has ruined me. I used to enjoy these bad articles in the paper, but now I see what they're doing wrong." And anyway, the point was the map approach opens your eyes to the structure of writing, and you can see where people fall off. Now, this is an important feedback I got from a preacher. Some of us are pastors here, and he came up to me. In fact, he came running up to me after the workshop, and he says, "Larry, now I know why my congregation is always falling asleep during my sermons." And he was talking about having focus in his communication. Anything he wanted, but so he got organized and people could follow him. But I would like to add too that what he meant was something about moving from abstract concepts to concrete. And I was praying this morning for our time together. It's often happens in concepts. I think everyone understands. I think think it's a pretty, to me, it was inspiring. I don't know if that's backward to you. Roar. He has a book of meditations. He says, I believe that the primary healing of human loneliness and meaninglessness is reality itself. You can hear me? Especially in its concrete forms, away from just ideas and concepts. So he had been preaching just ideas and concepts, and now through the map, he learned about the concrete. Jesus brought everything down to one concrete place of incarnation.
Larry,
Yeah.
it's breaking up again. Sometimes it would come in clear, and then sometimes
It goes away. Maybe I should check for the next webinar. I should get a new modem or something. I'm sorry, this is terrible.
Right now it's okay, and then after a few minutes, it would come in
away.
breaking. Yeah.
I think it's the mosquito. Should I keep going, trying this way?
Okay, keep going.
And then concluding this quote, he's saying that somebody said, check the microphone, which I did.
Maybe the connection.
The what?
The connection, the wiring is the microphone.
Well, the microphone's built in.
Is built in, okay.
Yeah, and I checked it before. So
okay.
What is this?
Continue.
If you can't understand anything, then you can't learn. Anyway, he goes on to say, if your writing is fancy and abstract, it's not as strong as it could be, as we find in Jesus, because Jesus was always talking about the concrete. And Jesus didn't have a microphone either, so people could hear him. Now, this is going on to where we find ideas. And I'd like to encourage people not to look in their Bible, not to look around the sanctuary, but to look outside and see how that can be brought into, as Jesus did, incarnated, making something sacred out of bread and wine. So I've just put up at random a picture of rocks here. And you're on the chat, so you're on the chat, so you can write in. Okay, you see this pile of rocks. I think it's called a cairn. And what could you write about? What could you write about stones? I was thinking what's the Bible? And actually, you could do something interesting about rocks in the Bible. You know, going back to David had a rock. What did that do? He overcame a big giant. Maybe our problems are giants. See how you could just looking at, and I do that. I just look at photographs on the internet. I'm just seeing the note here. Oh, it's Nisi. Hi, Nisi. Yeah, it's a good idea. Ramon?
Yeah, would you like to turn off your video, Larry?
No, I gotta have video. I gotta have pictures.
Okay, no, I mean your face.
Oh, yeah. Let's try that.
Yeah.
But I put on my shirt just for this. Okay. How do I turn that off? Hide thumbnail video.
Yeah, I removed you.
Yeah,
Go
thanks.
ahead.
Ramon's my best friend. Uh, yeah, and the suggestion, if you can't, if I start to go away, Ramon, you say something and it comes back.
Okay.
And so anyway, then there's the stone of the women caught in adultery. You could think of other stones in the Bible, all the way up to where Peter, so that, but that's here's where I think this is important. I add this grid. It's very helpful. Before you come down with your idea, talk about your readers, and don't just say my reader is out there, I need to write to everybody, but focus on little kids or youth or adults, whatever your article is for. I published, got accepted an article for the American Airlines in-flight magazine, and I was thinking about busy travelers, and also on the left list there you see social, physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual. I think often we focus on the spiritual for adults, spiritual for families, but there are these other needs too, and that really multiplies the kind of ideas and articles that you could develop. Now, here's one I found, which is very kind of certainly not spiritual, but I think, well, like when Jesus, he healed the blind man and he dug around in the mud. The mud wasn't spiritual. And he said, all these women can apply to be his lunar lover, because he was a rocket and go up to the moon, and he had over 20,000 women apply to go on the rocket. But if you look at what we were saying as bringing, let's say, this spiritual value, how a young person finds someone to marry, or Christian ethics. I think I was in Cambodia. Cambodia might be the 3 mosquito world. I'm going to write an article about mosquitoes. Now, so I started thinking, I started writing, and this is what with. As Christians, we need to follow the example of Jesus. Now, again, you can be a part of this. The question is, what's wrong with this? Be useful. And we need to follow the example of Jesus. One time I had a headache. Headaches are not good. You can take 3 kinds of medicines for headaches. I was thinking about mosquitoes. There are over 200 species of mosquitoes. Only the female mosquito gives you malaria. Sorry, ladies. In Africa, mosquitoes bite people. Africa has 3 sections, north, central, and south. Bananas are everywhere. One with bananas. We need a revival in the church. What do you notice about this writing? It's all over the place, right? It's just, it's like the writer starts at the beginning and he changes his idea. Oh, then somehow he comes up with the idea of the mosquito and the malaria. Then he gets into Africa, all kinds of, it's a jumble. And actually, so that's what's wrong with it. It's not coordinated. It's writing without a map. Now, we call this, actually, there's a name for it, free writing. And if do a lot of free writing because it frees up your mind to come up with new ideas as long as you don't stop there. And the way to deepen them and go into them more is a mind map. This is a great way to brainstorm. So let's focusing on mosquitoes. All right, I don't just start writing about mosquitoes. I think they're bad, they're selfish, they invade your space, they cause pain. So each one of these balloons, if you're looking for an idea, you try to get deeper into it so that you can develop it. Then I think, oh yeah, I talked about Christians and headaches. Christians hurt other people. Sometimes they do. Christians bite sometimes. We're talking about what? Ethics, behavior. And Christians crowd our space. So I take this mind map and then I go into, this is the thesis and support map. Now, the map has its center in the thesis. The main, it's the second box. The main idea of the article stated in one sentence. You BC. Now, before you know your thesis before you start. That's important. So in five senses, emotion, build a bridge to the thesis. Now go down to the third box. After the thesis, you develop the article, ABC. Now, I have a principle here that I usually share with writers, and that is, it seems so simple and so easy, but when you try it, then it's difficult. So, people by restating the thesis, try different endings, scene, summary, quote, observation, echo ending. Now, abstract. So let's put it into practice and focus on a kind of a thesis that you might have. And that is a general weakness should not act like mosquitoes. Or here's the better thesis following our map. Christians should not act like mosquitoes because mosquitoes only think of themselves. They invade point out some things. Notice that it starts out with an example from history. This is true. He was bit by a mosquito and it killed him. Then at the bridge, they've done the same. Christians should not act like mosquitoes because mosquitoes only think of themselves, invade other people's space, and cause pain, even death. Now, if you look at the next three paragraphs, these actually develop the A, B, and C. Notice the structure there. And when I teach this, often a writer will start with A, B. I say, what's wrong with this? I don't know. I don't understand Khmer or Arabic, because I worked in the Middle East, Indonesia, French. Oh, I know some French. But no, A, Jesus showed us how to help others. That's your first idea. B, as Christians, we should also respect people's space. And then thirdly, Christians should love and care for people. And then I tried to illustrate in these examples, concrete examples, like the Hindu leader who talked to me, he said, we can tell who the Christians are because they always help people. Despite this, there are some mosquitoes. In conclusion, again, the conclusion also repeats the echoes of the article, the ABC, after the thesis. I think it looks like I have time to go over the comparison one. And this is just to show you that there are, actually I work with about 10 or 12 maps. You know, we have a map for fiction, one for news articles. And again, at the end of this, the last page of the webinar, I will have Ramon's email and my email so that you can ask for any other maps, or really I'd like you to try and write an article based on one of these maps, and then I will meet separately with you. We could do another kind of webinar or talk on WhatsApp. Now you see the difference in this particular structure is it's not thesis ABC, it's you have the main idea where you're comparing A versus B. Again, begin in the culture related to the idea. Then the thesis is name the two subjects you're going to compare, show how they're similar and different, and what you will plead or prove. And then 3, develop comparisons. First, this is called the AB, the AB comparison structure. This first A, only A, talk about A, then only B, but then you start quickly show A and B similarities, close with a personal view. Now, again, this is all abstract and who knows how helpful it will be. Hello, maybe Ramon is writing down notes. I thought if he talked, it could bring out some of the sound, but he's gone.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Maybe that brings me back. Don't know how that works. So far, so good though, right, Ramon?
Well, you're breaking up every now and then. So I have a proposal. We will do this recording again, just the two of us, and that is what we are going to share with all those who registered for this webinar. So we will do a cleaner version of this, and we will send it out to you. In the meantime, we're here, so we would like to listen to you still.
Yeah.
Larry, continue.
Well, I will, let me stop for a minute. If you have, this isn't to use your chat. Maybe you have some questions.
Okay.
I can see I can see the chat here, but I know you have question and answers too.
Yeah.
Ramon, I think the questions could be related to where do you struggle? How might this help you? Or maybe you missed the point of.
Laura is asking, do you have
Yeah.
a map? Do you have a map for a memoir?
Yeah, that's interesting because we have personal. I think if I could get Laura's, you have everybody's email, right,
Yes,
Ramon?
yes.
We have one. It's called the Personal Experience um, Map, and I think that's the closest one
Mm-hmm.
to for helping you write a memoir. And let me explain what I mean. Uh, all of these maps can be used to expand well beyond an article. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could write a first person experience article, but then, or you can write an article with 3 points. But in our training seminars, often the map we see, you can actually transform that into a map of a whole book that's a certain subject. So in other words, then A becomes chapter 1, B becomes chapter 2, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The same with the first person map. You begin with that structure and you can extend it out through the whole story of your life. Or
Mm-hmm.
uh, here's another one from Gabby Clark.
Mm-hmm.
How does this organization change for hard news feature articles? Well, of course, hard news is one map, and the feature article is actually, the feature article is the map we started out with, where you have a dramatic opening. It's more interest, and then you develop it according to ways you're going to show it. Or the first person map, by the way, is could be almost a biographical one too. Uh, in other words, the first person is autobiography, but we can develop that map to show for about someone else. Features are often about other people. Um, so Nisi um, Nisi says, once you've developed, expanded your writing based on the maps, how do you cut down your writing to make it concise? I know Nisi, she likes to talk a lot, so maybe that's a special problem for many of us. Um, sorry, I'm just joking about Nisi. She doesn't talk too much. Maybe I do. But one of the beauties, I'm glad you brought this up. One of the beauties of this map is that it helps you be concise. I remember, I think I was doing a workshop in Cyprus, and I had a writer from Egypt, and she was writing according to the map. And I do talk about proportion, which I didn't mention today, so it's good it came up. But proportion is A should be about the same length as B, about the same length as C. And this writer, she turned in her article, A was 1 page, B was 1 page, and C was 85 pages. So what did I tell her? I said, oh, this 85 pages is so beautiful and wonderful, but look how big it is compared to the first parts. So she was happy to go back and cut it to fit. You could also have part A being 20 pages and then B being half a page, and so there's something wrong. Actually, another point here is, if one of your A, let's say your A is taking over, then you go back to your mind mapping and think, oh, I should just talk about A. Forget about, I cut out B and C and make a new thesis to fit what I'm trying to say in A. So the map is very good discipline in terms of not saying too much. Also, especially if we're used to having a conclusion be too long. But if you notice on the map, the conclusion is very brief and concise, and that's a good way to evaluate it. You know, it keeps, and then also the other way to evaluate is to make sure that every section, A, B, C, whatever. I'm coming back to the question about hard news. I did an interesting, I thought I'm going to try this news map when I was in not far outside of Mumbai in India. And it just was wonderful the way it worked, because as you know, with hard news, you have a lead with, and this is in a separate map. It would never fit in the kind of map we talked about today, but there is no thesis in hard news. It's who, what, when, where, why, and then you develop the news story, and most important first, and so on. But we mapped this out very carefully. And it's like in one day, they, without knowing anything about hard news, they knew where a news story could go based on this map. And again, I would encourage everybody to try to write one of these maps that I've given today. But if you'd rather try to write a news story, I can send that to you. Start with the memoir. You know, I spend a lot of my days writing my own fiction, nonfiction. By the way, there's a great map for writing stories too. And if you want to try that, we could try that together. Maybe that's enough, Ramon.
We may have more
Yes,
questions from our participants.
Yeah, go ahead.
We would love to hear from you. We hope we are answering your questions. Are you going to get in touch with Laura directly, Larry?
Well, I need to get.
I can give you her email address.
Yes, okay. That would be good.
Okay.
In fact, if I could, Nisi has the advice on proportion is helpful. She asked, is there, first she asked, is there, how many sentences in a paragraph? And there is no, it's interesting that the answer to that is the same answer as before. If you have, if you put, it's a matter of proportion. If your first paragraph is 3 sentences, you cannot have the second paragraph. Well, you could, anything's possible, but as you're learning this structure, if you have a paragraph that's 4 sentences, don't make the next paragraph be 50 sentences. So again, keep it in proportion. It's like you could say, how big should a hand be? Well, my hand is just the right size for me, but I have a new granddaughter. She's 8 months old, and her hand is much smaller. See what I mean? Same with the paragraph. If I had my granddaughter's hand, something would look funny. Yeah, actually, Ramon, if you could send me a list, and I can just make sure everybody gets a copy of these maps, and if that would work. And then I would like to get back, I think it's okay with you, Ramon, that like 3 or 4 weeks from now, I'll write a reminder to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to do your homework. Send me your sample article, and please write in your own language. I'll just ask Ramon to translate it.
We'll ask Google to translate it.
Yeah, I'll put it into Google. And here's a good in Reharjo. Can mosquitoes be replaced by flies? I love that question. Of course, yes. And or how about a rhinoceros or a crocodile? Yeah. Aha. Macor. Bonjour, monsieur. Ça va bien? Academic thesis, academic writing. You know, it's interesting. I believe that any kind of writing can use a map, and actually they do. One of my first assignments as an editor was to take a 500-page thesis and put it into a 100-page short book. And that's what I looked at first, is how this academic writing followed a particular map. It's different, but it's actually not too far from the thesis ABC map, because you have to prove a thesis in your academic writing, but there's just a lot more documentation, and you know, you study probably in the map it would say that in this section you go back and see what other people have said about your thesis and so on. And again, it could be the proportion side too, is you don't go overboard with one part of the other.
I have a question here from Susan. She used the Q&A. In Southern Africa, we often hear that thought and speech are not linear, but more circular in approach. Have you ever developed a map for this kind of discourse? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. It actually brings out what I said earlier, so I'm glad to be stressful to stress that. And that is, yes, definitely. I have not, it's an interesting question. I have not actually sat down and written a more, no, the West is linear, the East is more global, more circular. But it would be something I think I would take on that challenge. I would say though, in a practical way, workshops I've had in the East, we're talking about Cambodia, Thailand, India, Indonesia, of course. What happens is, once the writers are aware of organization, then they build into it, or let's go the other way. They expand out of it a nice goal, so that they don't take a 1, 2, 3 approach, but they keep circling around so that it is more fitting within that culture. And there's other characteristics of Eastern culture too, including like in the West, we like more simple languages, but I know my Cambodian writer friends, they like to be more literary. That's probably true of other places too. Good questions. Thanks for bringing that up, Ramon.
Well, it's Susan's question. And Eva is asking, is there a map just for short stories or short articles?
Are the maps for, I mean, as opposed to long ones? Yeah. Yeah, you could take, I think I've talked with Eva. I think I last saw you in Singapore. And that is, yeah, the map can be very handy for a short story, but also for a novel. And again, Eva, if you're still working on that, maybe this webinar can bring us back together, and maybe you could help me. I am writing a novel, And it's such hard work, especially when I show it to my wife Juanita, and she says, "I can't get past the first page." So you have to have courage. Uh, let's see,
Can you
Gabby.
see Gabby? Okay.
Yeah, 3 points. One turns out to have much more material than the others. What do you suggest doing if this happens? Yeah, I think I mentioned that, and this happens very frequently in workshops. And I think people are a little bit liberated when I tell them just drop your point B and C and just focus on point A. But then again, because of the discipline of the map, you're going so deep into point A, you can rewrite your thesis and then find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 points to support your thesis for just your A topic. I think that can be very exciting. And that's a process of writing. Writing is discovery.
And your points B and C could be
They could be, yeah,
other books. Let's
other
say
books, other articles. You could
other
write
articles.
three
Yeah.
articles that each have 3 points or support.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Anne is asking, is a map of the chiasmus, how do you respond? Can it be used for children's stories? Do you know what that means, Ramon?
I don't know. We can ask. Anne, would you like to explain what
And
that word is?
I
Is that
think
an
that's
Indonesian word or is that a map
form.
of the?
Maybe she could give us what refer to the.
Uh-huh.
By the way, that's a good point. We didn't talk about children's stories, and
Uh-huh.
just in general, I in fact MAI has a book that has a whole section in it that I wrote. Oh, I see what you're saying. ABC. Yeah, I'd have to see an example to see if it could be worked for children's stories, but I think here's where the imagination comes in. And if you keep like I talked about earlier, just keep your reader in mind, and that could work. But we do use the short story map that also works for children. And maybe Ramon, you could. It's that book that MAI has about writing for children. I really recommend that because the editor from Lion Publishing, she
Pat
wrote.
Alexander.
Yes, Pat Alexander.
And yourself.
She wrote the first part about where to get ideas, and then I have the second part where I have a map for children's stories.
Yeah, use maps to write for children is your part 2.
It's again, children have. Sonny, sometimes I go to the library and I just go and take out the children's books because they're always so wonderful, and not all of them, but a lot of them are very good. And Anne's question brings up sometimes people in my seminars, they know this, is I will make up a brand new map and ask people to try to write to it. So it's like, as long as it coordinates what you're saying, what you're doing, it can bring out a powerful new way of writing. And so I would encourage that. There might be some other examples. What about Jacob's Ladder? That could be a map for something, climbing higher and higher to the goal. I don't know. That's where it's about structure. It's about your culture, your values. These all can come out in a really powerful way if it's structured and the seed is planted and it grows up from the small beginning.
Okay. Do we have more questions from our participants? Boomakor has another one. So he's asking about the different kinds of maps for different kinds of writings.
And you find a map for your own style
Mm-hmm.
of writing. Yes, Umakor, of course, he's on the list with his email.
Yes.
And the same thing, we can send you these maps. And as far as your own style, I'm thinking about Umakor has a wonderful series of, oh, by the way, I didn't even mention that, but he has a wonderful series of daily meditations. It's a very nice map for devotional. And so that could be included in the list.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, you know, and I think you do follow a map, Bumakor, in your meditations, which I know get very good response. And it's nice to have a meditation that's consistent, you know, if you have a series like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always, when I look at a new kind of map, you know, I have my opinions about it, and I think I can sometimes think of a way to make it better. And it's funny, sometimes I'll be stuck in a story. This is my confession. I'll write the story and it's not working. And then I think to myself, what did I teach in my last workshop on writing a story? And I forgot what I was teaching. I should learn it myself. So I go back and follow the map as I've taught others, and the story comes out better. So it's like writing is you dive into it and you're very creative, and you just keep coming back and remembering principles that can help you move
Mm-hmm.
forward.
You could probably share your last slide about, I think people might want to contact you directly.
Oh, let's see, where is it? Yeah, that's right. See, that's what I forgot to put up. You can talk to me. I was thinking my slides were gone, but it's just my face.
Yeah.
And there's the email for Ramon. Is that right for yours,
Yeah.
Ramon?
Mm-hmm.
And then mine is my name with my L for Larry, 2017. That's not the date. That's the number of my house at gmail.com. At gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And again, whatever way we can get this message across, we can make a better recording, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's parts, like the last part with the questions, we could keep or something.
I think towards the end, I mean, when we entertain the questions, your audio improved. It
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
really
good.
breaking up as often as in the beginning.
Yeah, and
So we're grateful.
there was some good coaching with
Mm-hmm.
my limited computer. I guess it doesn't, you know, when I'm speaking or talking in a workshop, I love to run around and
Mm-hmm.
go up and down, but in a webinar, I guess you're just supposed to sit there and look straight ahead. So, but it's
Okay.
still a way to get all these people together. And by the way, I should say some people wrote to me, Ramon, said, well, I can't make it. So I encourage them to sign up, and then they can get the
link to the recording.
once we
Yeah.
make a final recording.
Yeah. Very
Anyway,
well.
thank you so much, everyone. And let's get your names, and we can keep working together.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, you're welcome. God bless.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for joining us, our participants. Some of you have stayed up late, especially if you're on the other part of the world, of the globe. and it's evening time at your place. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience. We were having difficulty with our audio. Just a reminder to all of you that we have a wealth of topics in our website, past webinars. You can go through our website and click on webinars, and we have a list there for maybe 4 years worth of monthly webinars. So various topics on publishing, writing, editing, marketing, finance. Make use of that resource. And we hope to see you again next month for our March webinar. We'll send you the invitation. Thank you, Larry.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Have a good day or night.
Yes. God bless you all. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.